At the time of this recording, I've sent well over 1 million cold emails and I've generated multiple 7 figures for our businesses using cold email. And naturally, along the way, I've learned a ton about using cold email. But when I first started, I completely sucked. I would send cold emails, get no replies, and end up with no book calls thinking that this is a complete waste of time. So if I could go back and give myself some advice, here are 39 things that I wish I would have known in order to actually start booking calls immediately, get countless numbers of positive replies, and actually make money using cold email. So first things first, when we start using cold email is we need to think long-term, not just from a single campaign that we're doing. I remember my first campaigns, my first sets of campaigns, I would be so hyped thinking that this singular campaign is going to be the dictator of my success. And if I can just nail this specific campaign, I am going to be financially free. I'm gonna get all these sales. It's gonna be freaking amazing. Problem is, I was so laser focused on just the simple campaign rather than zooming out and looking into at a full strategy. We need to think long-term about our cold email strategy and we need to commit to it rather than thinking that this is going to be a band-aid. And with that commitment comes strategy, comes research, comes using the right tools, which is paramount for the growth if we actually want to get results using cold email. Number 2 is we need to detach from the outcome. So when I first started using cold email, I did not get very good results. I would send emails, get little replies, little book calls, and honestly, I felt some type of way about it because I wasn't getting the results that I had anticipated or getting the results that I've seen marketed. Rather than attaching our ego or identity to the result of a singular campaign, what we need to do is we just need to look at it from a outsider's perspective. And rather than thinking, oh my gosh, this is a reflection of me not being a good lead generation, we need to go in it from like a surgeon's perspective and figure out, okay, what levers do I need to pull in the next campaign in order for this to actually be good? Because if we're so tied up emotionally into a specific campaign and think the results of that campaign reflects our savviness in business, that is a recipe for failure. Number 3 is to not take cold emails personal. When I first started, I would send cold emails and I would be so hype thinking that this campaign was going to give me a ton of leads, a ton of book calls, and ultimately kind of sales at my business. And when it didn't happen, I would feel some type of way, or if I would get replies that say, take me off your list, it would make me feel like personally pretty bad. And that happened even when I thought I wrote the best copy, had the best list, and had everything optimized, ready to go. But the reality is, it doesn't matter how good you think your copy is, how well you think you set your campaign up. What matters most is how the people respond. So with that, what we need to do is we need to figure out what is the market actually responding to, which comes down to education like what you're doing right now, testing different techniques that will actually get responses from your ideal customers. Number 4 is you're not bothering people if you're relevant. A lot of people think that cold email is just spammy and you're just like bothering a bunch of people. And honestly, a lot of cold email users, when they start, think the same thing. Instead of going at it from that mindset, what we want to go in it from is you have something that is amazing and we need to get it in front of people who could actually benefit from it. We need to make sure who we're actually sending our emails to could actually benefit from what we have to offer and actually make it relevant to that specific person so that you go in with a more of a helpful mindset rather than a spammy mindset. We don't want to just blast a bunch of people with some random offer. Number 5 is we need to keep it simple to make more money, guys. When I first started sending cold emails, I would write novels. I would try to overcomplicate a bunch of things. I would try to add these little techniques and things trying to be clever. And it wasn't until I realized is that the simplest campaigns that we were sending were generating the most amount of positive replies. And the reason that is because it was clear and it wasn't trying to be overly clever, guys. Simplicity scales, complex fails. Number 6 is offer is everything. If you are watching this and you do not have a clear offer, meaning you do not know what the pain points of your clients are, the desired outcomes of the clients, you don't know how to speak the language of your ideal customer, it's just gonna be really hard to translate that into an effective cold email. What happens oftentimes is people will say, oh, I'm gonna do 5 videos for you, or we're gonna help you generate leads. And to be honest, that's a blanket message. What we wanna do is we want to go layers and layers deeper on our offer so that we can speak the language of our ideal customers, we can speak to the pain points of them, and we can come up with something creative that's going to catch their attention to provoke a response from them. So we really need to drill in our offer. I always recommend using something like ChatGPT to have it audit your messaging and audit your offering. And I always like to say, make this more polarizing. So whatever you write out for your email copy, put it into ChatGPT and say, make this more polarizing, make my offer more polarizing so that it speaks the language of your ideal customers. Number 7 is to keep the subject lines human. When I first started sending cold emails, I thought I would be super clever and I'd say like, we'll help you get leads, or we'll post on your social media, or basically putting my offer in the subject line. And the problem with this is that the recipient immediately knows that I was trying to sell them something. What we really need to realize from the principles of the subject line is that's the first impression, and really we're trying to get them to open it. And what I like to do is to pique curiosity and make it human. So simple things like hi, first name, thoughts, question mark, something that will pique the curiosity just to get the prospect to open it, and then the email copy will do the rest of the work for you. Number 8 is we need to be patient with sending. Again, when I first started cold email, what I would do is I would literally get the biggest list that I could find, and I would just blast as quickly as possible because I was so eager to get in front of as many people as possible. Problem with this was I burned my emails. The list was way too big, so it was basically a blanket offer to a bunch of people, and it wasn't relevant to the people actually receiving it, and it came off completely as spam. So what we need to do is we need to be patient. We need to take our time to make sure that we have a really good list. We have copy relevant for that list. Sometimes that means we're not sending 1,000 emails a day from the jump because we want to do the little things well in order to create the outcomes that we're actually expecting to get using cold email. And it's okay to start slow and ramp up. Number 9 is we need to always verify the emails. When I was using cold email, I'd basically get a list of emails, I would upload them, and I would click on send. And then my open rates were extremely low. I would land in spam a lot, and the emails that I would actually send from would get burned. And the reason is because my emails were not verified. So what we do when we do cold email is we get a list of emails, and what we need to do is we need to go through a verification process. And what that verification process does is it verifies that email is actually legit. And by verifying the email is actually legit, you're going to actually send more emails that are going to land in the inbox, which is going to make your domain and email healthy, making sure that you actually land in the inbox of your ideal customer. So that is a paramount step to do. You cannot skip that. Number 10 is we need to be in the mindset that we're not selling, we're trying to start a relationship. So the thing with cold email is it's cold. People don't know you. People don't have any trust established. And it's also faceless, and there's no real way to actually build a relationship using cold email because you're just basically sending a cold email. What I used to do is I would basically try to just get on a call immediately and ask people if they had 15 minutes tomorrow, whatever it could be, trying to book a call from the jump with no trust established. That's like trying to get married without actually dating for a long period of time. The mindset that I like to go in, and what a lot of the top cold emailers preach, is we want to add value first and start to build that relationship. So rather than going it from the mindset of I'm going to book 100 calls from this cold email, I'm going to build a lot of relationships, and I'm going to add value to a lot of people, which could turn into an actual deal. Number 11, shorter the better. I mean, when I first started sending cold email, I would write novels, like I said, and I would list off all the services, all the benefits, what we do for people, why we're the best, and end with book a call and let's chat. What I've realized is that shorter is the better. I mean, attention spans are shrinking. So if we can get that email as short as possible, I'm talking less than 100 words, you will be able to capture the attention, communicate clearly on what you do and the outcomes that you provide, and make it more likely for the prospect to open it, read it, and actually respond. Number 12, pretty obvious, use a single call to action in the emails. I made a huge mistake early on when I was sending cold emails. It was like, hey, you can book a call, or could I send you over a case study? I would basically end the emails with 3 different directions that we could go. And it really ended up just being more confusing for the prospect than it was clear for the prospect. So rather than saying, hey, would you like me to send you over a lead magnet? Or if you want, you can book a call here. Pick one singular call to action and really hone in on that. Number 13, do not send more than 4 emails in one campaign, one sequence. So oftentimes people want to have like this huge 10-step email campaign when it comes to cold emails. But really what you're doing is you're pretty much just wasting time. The format that we like to do is we like to do an opener plus 2 to 3 follow-ups from that specific opener. And how we do this is we have an opener with our offer, with our unique mechanism, with the angle that we're going at from that email. Then we have 2 to 3 emails that are following up on that opener, and really just being straight to the point, kind of rapid firing, going through those in a 7 to 10 day window. And then what we do for the people who opened it and maybe didn't respond, we come up with a new opener and we create a new different campaign targeted using the same format that we just created. So don't create a 20-step email following up every quarter. Like that just doesn't really make sense. That leads me to my next point, which is number 14, is to reuse your list. What we can do with cold email is we can send emails and we can actually see who opened it but didn't reply. What does that mean? Cool. We can download those people and retry with a different offer for that specific avatar or that specific email, making it easy to continue to recycle and reuse lists just with different angles. Number 15 is to use personalizations. There's so many different tools out there and so many different angles that we can use to use personalizations, which are going to increase the likelihood of us actually getting responses. But on the flip side, number 16 is personalizations aren't everything all the time. Oftentimes, even myself, what I used to try to do is I would try to come up with this crazy personalization, spend all this time coming up with this personalization with this huge long sentence. I would still get the similar results as having a short, direct, offer-driven, pain point-driven email. Or what I would do is I would send personalizations that were obviously super corny. So oftentimes personalizations could be a negative if the personalizations aren't actually good. And oftentimes if we want to keep our emails as short as possible and direct as possible because of the attention spans, depending on your avatar, personalizations might not be the thing that's going to get you the best results. Number 17 is more lists versus big lists. When I first started, again, I would get these huge lists. I would buy these lists of 100,000 prospects in my niche, and I would basically upload them, being super eager to get going on this. And I would blast the same list with the same offer, with the same messaging. The problem with this is there was no angles. There's no way for me to actually be direct with anybody, and they were getting the same message, and it really felt spammy. What we want to do is we want to create more lists versus a big list. So from that list of 100,000, let's call it, how could I break that into 20 different lists with 20 different angles, which makes the messaging seem more relevant? That's the mindset that we need to be at. Number 18 is to use plain text, not HTML. I mean, when I first started sending cold email, I would send images, I would send all these different links to little avail because the email service providers could see that flag as spam. So quick tip, just use plain text emails because that's going to increase the likelihood of it landing in the inbox, which is one of the most important things to do. And it's going to come off as the most human approach, which leads me to number 19, which is to have from a real person feel. One of the biggest mistakes that I made using cold emails, I sounded like a freaking cold email person trying to sell somebody something. What we want to do using copy is to make it feel like it's a human on the other end, because it is a human on the other end. And how we do that is by being strategic with our lists and being strategic with our copy. The person reading it should feel like you're sending an email directly to that person and it's meant for them, not an email blast. That's not what cold email is. All right, if you're watching this, the logical next step is to actually implement and take action on everything that you're learning. And the best way to take action is to use the best tools. And the tool that I cannot recommend enough is Instantly.ai. This has generated us multiple 7 figures, and it's the tool that I'm using to send cold emails on a daily basis. Not only does it help set up your email accounts, but you can build lead lists and you can use AI to send emails as well as come up with auto replies based off of AI. It's a all-in-one solution for your lead generation tools. And lucky for you guys, you can get started with a free trial if you click the link down below in the description. Number 20, AI is a tool, not a crutch. Oftentimes when we work with a ton of agencies is they'll send over copy for review and I can immediately tell that AI wrote that. And in today's day and age, so can your customers. So we can leverage AI to help us, but I always want to have the human approach just to make sure that that sounds more human, because AI sometimes does sound like a robot. Number 21 is to use proof. Proof is in the pudding again. Cold email, it is cold. People don't know you. They don't trust you. They don't have any context on you. And the best way to accelerate trust is by proof. So include case studies, include wins that are relevant for the person that's actually receiving the email, and you will see your reply rates go up. Number 22 is to test subject lines. Subject lines are one of the first impressions of the recipient. That's a really important thing to test because that's the first thing that the recipient is actually going to see. So inside of a tool like Instantly, you can actually test different subject lines and you can come up with a winner based off of what the market is deciding. Number 23 is to write like a 5th grader. So what I would always do is I would add jargon. I would try to maybe even add some like fancy words so that I could sound smarter. But the reality is that's not speaking the language of your customers. So what I like to do now is when I write cold emails, I will send it through ChatGPT and I'll say, write this for junior high or grade school level, and it'll simplify the message, making it clearer and clearer for the prospects so that they can fully understand. If your message can't be understood simply, it's not going to get responded to. Number 24 is your email signature does matter. It's a cold email. So what are people naturally going to do if they respond or after they respond? They're going to do some research. So make sure you have your name, you have your website, you have your Instagram handles, but do not hyperlink them. Just include them so that they can copy and paste them and check them out. You can also add in the awards or anything that's going to increase the proof for the recipient that's actually receiving the email. Number 25, warming up takes time and do not rush it. I was the guy that was super eager to just blast cold emails once I got my emails up and got my lead list and I'm ready to go. But we need to realize is that our source of actually landing in inboxes is the inboxes that we have. And if we burn them early on, it's a complete waste. We cannot get those back and it will become a waste of money and a waste of time for you. So be patient during the email warm-up process and treat that with a lot of tenderness, because if you burn it, you're out of luck. Our number 26 is cold emails die without systems in place. We can't expect to just send a bunch of cold emails and all of a sudden think, okay, I'm sending 1,000 emails a day. I'm going to be rich here in 3 months. And then you don't have any systems, processes in place to actually manage that or to track anything, and it becomes a complete waste of time. So what we want to make sure is we have systems in place for tracking. We know how many replies we're getting, which instantly does. How many positive replies that we're getting, meaning is it actually effective? We have a operating system with all of our email copy, maybe some prompts in place. We have a follow-up system for when people do respond for positive replies. We have a testing protocol. We have SOPs for everything possible so that we are just pulling levers of our systems in order to make it really efficient for us. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to be overwhelmed by the volume of leads. We don't want to be overwhelmed by cold email. We want to create a system for it, and then we can scale up the systems, because systems run the business. And then what we can eventually do is put people in to run those systems and scale it even farther beyond yourself. All right, number 27 is the offer matters more than the copy. A perfectly written email cannot outwin a crappy offer. If you don't know what's going to pull at the strings of your customers, get them to raise their hand, get them to be convicted to reply to your email, it's going to be really, really hard to have success with cold email and actually getting replies. What we need to focus on is what is the offer for the person that we're talking to? What is the call to action that's going to convict them to raise their hand? We need to triple down and focus on that and really make that the breadth of our cold email copy. Number 28 is that cold email can book calls, but it cannot close deals. Cold email will not be your saving grace if you cannot close deals. The purpose of cold email is to turn contacts into leads. And then what you need to do is you need to turn those leads into book calls. And then what you need to do and be responsible for is turning those book calls into actually closed deals. So cold email will do a lot of the heavy lifting, meaning getting you a lot of positive replies, getting you people to respond, getting you people to even potentially even book a call with you. But you're going to need to do the rest of the heavy lifting, which is going to be getting them on a call and actually closing a deal. So make sure you have a solid sales process in place so that you can actually close deals from cold email. Number 29 is that most people quit too early. And oftentimes I was the guy, I was questioning myself, is cold email the thing for me? Like, is this actually going to work? And that was just a couple months in using cold email. And what I did is I basically hired mentors and learned from people who were having a lot of success. I started to educate myself by watching videos like what you're watching right now and learned what people who are actually generating revenue with cold email are doing and implemented and executed. The reality is that any lead generation strategy could work. Direct mail could work. Advertising in newspapers probably could work. Ads probably could work. It's about you working it and coming up with strategies and taking time and having hours in the game so that you can refine, test, and actually make good. Number 30, fortune is in the follow-up. What good is it to have somebody raise their hand and become a lead, but you have no follow-up process in place? So what we need to do, and it's really easy to do inside of a tool like Instantly, is have a follow-up queue like in your CRM, and the people who raised their hand, who are showed interest, who replied with a positive intent, become follow-up process. So what we do is we basically have a 12-step follow-up process that's multi-channel across multiple different channels, which is another tip for you guys, is to not just follow up via email, but follow up SMS, LinkedIn, Instagram, multiple different channels, so that you can increase the likelihood of you booking a call with them. So you need a follow-up protocol in place so that you can actually get the person who's interested to actually book a call with you. And with no follow-up protocol, good luck. Number 31 is that people don't care about what you do. If you're sending cold emails and you do lead gen for somebody, if you're writing emails that say stuff like, hey, we will run your ads for you and we will create the copy and we will manage your business manager and send you weekly analytics reports, you're going to end up in the spam folder quicker than you know it. Potential clients are just going to hit delete on your email. They do not care about what you do. They care about what they get. So instead of talking about your deliverables, talk about your outcomes and how it's going to relieve all of the pain points for that specific customer. We need to think, what is the desired outcome? What are the pain points? And speak to those in our email copy, because they don't care about you writing the copy, you setting up their business manager, you coming up with the ad creative. They care about the outcome that you're actually going to generate for them. Number 32, stop relying on email templates. When I first started, one of my highest search results on Google is probably cold email templates to get results. And that was a lead magnet for a lot of these different companies, was, oh, steal our cold email template, blah, 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 blah. And that's great as like maybe a starting point, but that is not the end all be all. Do not rely on these templates out there to get you results, because your unique avatar is probably different than a lot of different unique avatars, and it requires testing, it requires refining AI. It'll get you started, but don't let that feel like your saving grace for actually getting results with cold email. Number 33 is to use trigger events to time your emails. And this comes down to effective list building. You're the client that you're working with recently funded. Is there an event that they had? Is there an event that they're going to a booth at? Did they recently win an award? These are signals that you can leverage and strike while the iron is hot. Number 34 is to never attach PDFs, Loom videos, Calendly links inside of your cold emails. Not only will email service providers see this as spam, you'll end up not even reaching the inbox of your ideal customers, but the recipient will also see it as spam, and they're not going to respond to you because they feel like they're being sold to. And the reality is that nobody likes being sold to. Number 35 is cold email is not a set it and forget it. If your expectations right now are, hey, I'm going to start sending cold emails and all of a sudden I'm going to get all these different leads and all these different opportunities from a business, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. Cold email is an active way to generate leads. What we're doing here is we're generating positive replies, raise their hand and get responses. What our responsibility is speed to lead, tracking, following up, getting them on calls, multi-channel approach, following up, and actually being active in the cold emails so that we can do everything that we can do to get the results. It takes time and it takes work, but if you work it, it will work for you. Number 36 is to track positive replies, not just the reply rate, because oftentimes when you do send cold emails, you might get a lot of replies that say, remove me from the list, not interested. But the best indicator of success for your campaign is in fact going to be positive replies, meaning people raising their hands and actually leads getting generated from that specific campaign. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are effectively tracking how many actual positive replies, how many leads we're getting per each campaign, because that is a huge signal of a successful campaign. Number 37 is to leverage Spinax. So if your emails are the same every single time, you're going to end up in the spam folder because you are not leveraging a very simple way to put variances in your emails, which to the email service providers will show as a separate email, is to use Spinax. And what Spinax allows you to do is to change up the hi, hey, hello in all of your emails to every single person that you're sending emails to. You can test out different call to actions. You can put different email signatures. And what this allows you to do is it basically creates different variances for easy things to create variances for, like the intro and the call to action. And it shows up as unique emails, which will not be flagged as spam or really just decrease the likelihood that you're going to be in spam. Number 38 is avoid spam words. Free trial, things with money in there, guarantees, because what that's going to do is the email service provider is going to flag that as spam. And to the recipient, they're probably going to think to themselves, okay, this person's trying to sell me something, which doesn't really work in the cold email game. And last but not least is if you have no idea if your emails are landing in the inbox, you are flying blind. What good is it to implement all these strategies to send thousands of emails every single day or every single month, but never know if you're actually landing in the inbox? One of the highest leverage, underrated thing that a lot of people talk about when it comes to cold email is the importance of deliverability. It means nothing if your email isn't actually landing in the inbox. So if we're not monitoring that and we're putting our attention to it and optimizing it, we're missing out on wasted contacts. Now, all 39 of these tips are things that you absolutely need if you want to have success with cold email. But the next step of this is to use a tool that'll actually allow you to implement exactly what you're teaching, because what good is all this information if you cannot implement it or if you have no idea how to implement it? So click on the video on the screen where we will walk you through exactly how to set everything up so that you can start sending 1,000 cold emails a day. And this is the volume that you'll really start to see result with your cold email, be able to book dozens of calls and flood your pipeline with prospective clients. So if you're actually serious about growing your business and scaling this year, I will see you on that video.